Welcome to the deep dive. We're plunging into some really fascinating research today. We're looking at something that's, well, both exciting and maybe a bit daunting for some. The idea of AI taking on real strategic leadership in companies. I mean, we've all seen AI crunching data, right? But moving to making, genuinely strategic, ethical, effective decisions, that's a whole other ballgame. So our deep dive today is into game theory for autonomous AI systems in corporate governance. We'll be exploring how these systems might evolve from just processing information to being sophisticated decision makers, guiding companies potentially. The source is a really timely paper, just out in 2025, from Romanova AS at the Moscow Institute of Physics and Technology. It paints quite a picture. Our mission, for you listening, is to walk away with a clearer idea of the framework needed. How do you build AI that's not just smart, but strategic and responsible? Okay, let's dig in. So maybe start with the basic challenge. Modern AI, it leans heavily on machine learning, but the paper argues that ML algorithms on their own aren't really a strategy.
Exactly. The paper's quite specific about defining strategy. It's a complete description of how a system behaves under all possible circumstances. If you think about it, basic ML algorithms are more like, well, super advanced sensors. They spot patterns, make predictions, tell us what the data shows. But they don't inherently tell us what to do next, strategically, planning for everything. And that's precisely where game theory comes in. It provides the mathematical structure. It lets autonomous AI systems move past just pattern finding to making genuinely effective strategic choices in corporate governance, simulating optimal moves.
Right. And game theory isn't just some like obscure academic thing. It's used everywhere. Economics, political science, psychology, marketing, finance. It pops up all over. So it feels like a natural fit for complex corporate decisions, even for AI.
It really is.
So understanding that difference, ML as the sensor, game theory as the strategy maker, that seems pretty crucial for seeing how AI could actually lead, not just automate.
Absolutely fundamental.
Okay, so how does this all fit together? The paper lays out a pretty comprehensive model, doesn't it? A kind of blueprint for autonomous AI in management.
Yes, it's quite a detailed model. It weaves together several key parts. First, there's this concept of computational law. Think of it as translating legal rules into algorithms AI can actually execute, turning data into legal conclusions automatically. It's a big step towards, provably compliant AI.
Yeah, interesting.
Then there's the dedicated operational context, basically creating specific rule books just for the AI systems, separate from human procedures, for clarity.
Okay.
Another piece is controlled synthetic data generation. The idea is training AI on artificial data. Why? To potentially build systems that act even more ethically or legitimately than humans might by sidestepping biases in real-world data.
So designing the data to design the ethics, almost?
In a way, yes. And of course, machine learning is still vital, but it's part of this bigger strategic picture, not the whole thing. The core engine, as we said, is optimal strategy via game theory. That's how the AI figures out the best moves for the company. And finally, really importantly, explainable AI or XAI. This is the interface, how the AI shows its work, its reasoning to human bosses or stakeholders.
That sounds incredibly integrated, but also really complex. Does the paper touch on, the sheer difficulty of making all that work together in real time?
That's a fair point. It acknowledges the complexity, but argues that this very integration is what makes it trustworthy and effective. It's not just a toolkit. It's designed as a framework where each part supports the others to handle that complexity and ensure accountability alongside capability.
Okay, so what does this actually look like? The paper talks about different forms these AI systems are taking, right? We're already seeing things like digital command centers. Big companies use these, pulling in data from everywhere, factories, production sites, like ADNOC's Panorama Center.
Right, those are the big data hubs. But AI is also becoming more visible. We're seeing personalized virtual systems and even humanoid robots. These are the interfaces for interacting with people. The paper mentions Tieto putting an AI on a leadership team, Deep Knowledge Ventures having an AI board member, even Mika, the robot CEO.
Mika, right. And Sophia from Hanson Robotics. So AI is moving out from the back room.
Exactly. And connecting these trends, the paper predicts the rise of hybrid systems. This is key. These systems are likely to dominate because they combine the huge data processing power of those command centers with the social interaction skills of the virtual assistants or humanoid robots.
Ah, so the best of both worlds.
Pretty much. Individual systems like a single robot CEO just can't crunch the same amount of data as those digital factories. They'll need to connect.
Yeah.
So the hybrid model lets the powerful centers do the heavy lifting analysis and then sends the results to an agent or robot to communicate with humans.
So you're really seeing AI evolve from just data analysis to being an integrated, maybe even socially aware part of leadership.
That's the trajectory the paper outlines.
Okay, this leads to what the authors call the main question for an AI using game theory. In what game is the system playing right now? Sounds simple, but I guess it's actually critical.
It's absolutely paramount. Defining the game correctly is step one for finding the right strategy. The paper uses this to reframe some common ethical dilemmas, like self-driving car one, should it protect a helmetless motorcyclist more? The argument is, unless the AI is specifically programmed to play the public safety education game, it wouldn't even ask that. It's not its game. It might just report a violation.
Hmm, that's a different way of looking at it. But does that feel a bit like dodging the ethical complexity? Can you always neatly define the game to avoid tricky situations?
That's a really good question. The paper seems to suggest that with robust upfront design, using computational law in clear operational contexts, many of those gray areas either get resolved beforehand or their nature changes. The ethical responsibility shifts more to the designers defining the game, rather than the AI making tough calls on the fly.
Okay, so the focus shifts to our definition of the AI's role.
Exactly. Define the boundaries, define the game.
So in these games, who are the players? When an AI makes a decision, who's it interacting with?
The paper identifies several possibilities. AI can play against or with social systems, humans, groups. It can interact with other technical systems, so other AIs,
Hmm.
mixed systems like humans using AI tools, and even nature, like in risk assessment scenarios.
And that raises a big one. Should an AI treat humans and other AIs with the same level of care?
The paper argues for equality, actually. The reasoning is that a technical system, another AI, is often just a proxy for human interests or a group anyway.
Right, representing people behind the scenes.
Precisely.
Okay, but then how do you measure utility? How
Mm.
does an AI decide what's a good outcome, especially if human lives are involved? It's not just dollars and cents.
It's not. And what's interesting is the paper points, we already quantify this, even if we don't like thinking about it that way. Look at medicine, allocating scarce resources, organs, drugs. Society uses methods like equal treatment, helping the sickest first, maximizing overall benefit, or metrics like QALY's quality-adjusted life years and DALY's disability-adjusted life years. These try to measure life in terms of length and quality.
So there are existing frameworks, even for something as sensitive as life value.
Yes, frameworks that AI could potentially adapt or learn from. And for the broader corporate or societal impact, the paper brings in ESG metrics, environmental, social, governance, sometimes called moral money. Researchers, like at MIT and Zurich, have found hundreds of these ESG indicators used by rating agencies already. So there's a foundation to build on.
Got it. So we have ways to measure value, but then come the rules of engagement, right? The ethics. The paper stresses that for AI in civil or commercial use, ethical and legitimate systems aren't optional extras, they're mandatory.
Mandatory. That's the key word. And this fundamentally changes how you look at classic game theory problems. Take the prisoner's dilemma. An ethical, legitimate AI,
Right.
if it caused unintentional damage, it wouldn't try to hide it to get a better score. It would report it, fix it, because it's not designed for intentional harm. The math might look similar, but the meaning completely changes because of these built-in rules.
So how deeply do these mandatory ethics actually constrain the AI? Does it limit the kinds of games it can even consider playing or the strategies available?
Definitely. The paper suggests thinking about it like game ranking.
Hmm.
Ethical and legal rules are always the highest priority games. You could almost see it as a modern take on Asimov's laws. Especially the Zeroth law, don't harm humanity. That's like an early computational law for public interest. The bottom line is, strategies for these ethical AI systems have to exclude unethical or illegal moves right from the start. They're just not on the table.
And this ethical layer also dictates when AIs should cooperate, right?
Yeah.
Form coalitions.
Exactly. Ethics and legitimacy determine coalition forming. In an emergency, saving lives. Coalition is necessary and good. But if you're talking about market collusion where anti-competition laws apply, legitimacy says no coalition, just like for human companies.
But could humans even tell if super smart AIs had formed a hidden coalition?
That's a real challenge the paper flags. Their computational speed makes it hard to monitor, which brings in fairness. Drawing on EU work on autonomous vehicles, the paper suggests more powerful AIs might have a duty of care. Like, a self-driving car might need to calculate and share safe strategies for everyone around it, especially pedestrians or cyclists, adjusting its own behavior for the vulnerable.
Wow, that adds another layer of complexity to integrating these systems into society, cooperation and responsibility.
It really does.
Thinking back to the origins of game theory, von Neumann and Morgenstern often assumed the goal was, well, money, profit.
Right, that was the classic economic assumption. But this paper proposes a radical shift for civil or commercial AI. It argues the core goal shouldn't be profit, but human life, its preservation, its protection. That becomes the AI's primary objective.
So if you genuinely make that the core goal, does it completely change what counts as rational for an AI? How does the paper handle that huge shift?
It totally redefines rational behavior. The paper introduces this idea of a basic game for AI. It's the highest priority game, maybe infinite, always running, focused on preserving identified human lives. And crucially, it can't be zero-sum. We don't design systems to lose lives. Think of chess.
Yeah.
Not getting checkmated is a rule within the game. For this AI, preserving life is the game's ultimate objective.
The overarching goal itself.
Exactly. And the specific rules of this basic game are shaped by society. Like the MIT moral machine experiment showed different cultures had different views on acceptable sacrifices. Those norms would feed into the AI's basic game rules.
A massive idea. Shifting AI's ultimate goal from profit to people. Let's look at how this might actually work, designing these games.
Okay, so an individual protection example. A simple game against nature, where nature is random, like weather. A company needs to decide, buy expensive safety gear that might never be used. Utility could be simple, +1 if protected, -1 if not. Strategies are different gear levels, high, medium, low protection against different storm severities. Here, the paper brings up Wald's criterion. It's like being extremely cautious, planning for the absolute worst case. This criterion tells the AI, pick the strategy that gives the best guaranteed outcome, even if the worst happens. In the example, high-class gear always gives +1 utility, protection. So, Wald says pick that. The paper suggests society could make this the default for AI protecting individuals. Other criteria, like balancing optimism or minimizing regret, aren't really right when the goal is guaranteeing protection for someone else.
Okay, makes sense for one person,
Yeah.
but protecting one person super cautiously might not be best for everyone, right?
Exactly right. The individual model misses the bigger picture. That expensive gear uses resources needed elsewhere. Or maybe making it harms the environment. So for a collective view, you need broader metrics. That's where you adapt existing ESG metrics or use frameworks like the UN Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs.
Ah, the SDGs. Those 17 goals ending poverty, climate action, education, all that, with loads of specific indicators.
Exactly. They provide a way to measure utility or benefit from a much wider societal perspective.
But calculating that kind of collective benefit must take massive amounts of data and computing power.
It absolutely does. Which loops back to the paper's point about needing powerful digital factories or hybrid systems. Individual AIs probably couldn't handle it. So you see the progression from focusing narrowly on one person's safety to optimizing for broad societal good using established frameworks.
So we've really covered a lot of ground here. How game theory could provide this mathematical backbone for autonomous AI making strategic, ethical choices in business. It's quite the journey from just data crunching to potentially nuanced leadership.
Definitely. And I think the core takeaway from the paper is that fundamental shift in defining the AI's main goal, moving beyond just profit to actively preserving human life and well-being, all within strict ethical and legal guardrails.
Yeah.
And recognizing that you need serious computational power, likely in hybrid systems, to manage these complex layered calculations effectively.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. It's been really insightful. And maybe a final thought for you to mull over. As AI does become a more strategic player in companies, in society, how will our own collective definition of success or utility need to change, and what new ethical rules will we need to consciously build into these basic games for AI to make sure they truly serve humanity, not just now, but, long into the future?